Good day everyone. So obviously a hot topic right now on Genshin Impact is the fact that the Genshin Impact developers have confirmed that they're not going to add more combat related endgame content like the Spiral Biz to Genshin Impact. Now obviously this has drawn a lot of criticism from many content creators, lots of debates from casual players versus like in-game or hardcore players, and obviously from a lot of different communities, the EN or English community, the JP or Japanese community, or CN or Chinese community. So today we're going to be looking at what allegedly the Chinese community says about this, and obviously we're going to respond to it. So let's just sort of get into it. Basically, right here at the top, it sort of says, well, from the sort of interview about the end game, it shows that the English community don't know anything about mobile games, which is kind of really funny. You can even see in line 2, it says, it's obvious that they, the English community, never played much mobile games, not understanding how a big impact the high difficulty events could affect the game environment and community. So cool. So right off the bat, we're all about throwing, insults instead of giving actual reasoning. And of course, this is completely false. The EN community, if you look at the latest numbers, made up half of the total mobile gaming spend of the entire world. So North America and Western Europe made up half of the, I think it said here, 1.6 billion in total per week on mobile games in the first quarter of 2022. So to say that the English community knows nothing about mobile games, well, I beg to differ, because the data clearly shows that they do know quite a lot. So sorry, that's just complete BS. So let's see what else is being said here. These short-sighted people never understand why Genshin can attract so many players and why we're willing to cash or for consolations or refinements. Cool, so explain your reasoning why. Don't just take it as a self-evident truth that you can now hide behind this mask. I'm the CN community, and if you don't understand it, then you're an idiot. Explain your reasoning, because this has just absolutely said complete nothing. And let's see what else is being written here. So on the paragraph 1, it says, since the start, Genshin is a casual caching mobile game, so gacha game, targeting audiences who play 30 minutes per day, not hardcore players, let alone saying English community has way less of a guide than Billy, even less than okay. So have you watched anything outside of Bilibili? Something on YouTube or Twitch or some other platforms, maybe, just a little hint. Yeah, sorry, that's just absolute bullshit. There's so many guides on YouTube, it's not even funny. And also this idea that Genshin is a casual gacha game for people that play 30 minutes a day. Really? So what has this got to do with the fact that there is endgame? Because Genshin by itself creates many FOMO time-limited events that requires you to play through hours of character dialogue in order to get to the actual rewards, whereas if you had spent that time just going through the Spiral Abyss instead, you'd find that you can get the same amount, 600 Primo Gems instead of 420, and a far shorter time period. So this in and of itself is kind of weird. I know a lot of people reason that these people have a limited time per day, and hence they spend on constellations to make their progression so on easier. And this is something I'll talk about in a follow-up video, because that logic just does not make any sense. Genshin Impact by itself can be curated to be a casual game with casual experiences, but there is enough depth in the game and in the combat system and in the in-game and with regards to the in-game economy, such that you can consider it a viable game for hardcore players to enjoy. So once again, this is just a hiding behind the CN community wall. We don't do it here. We don't do it like this in Asia. It's like, come on, really? That's just you're not reasoning about anything here. Obviously, I talked about the EN community, and I also think here that a lot of people don't understand that if you have high difficulty events with scoring based systems like the Vagabond or Energy Amplifier, Genshin typically makes the Primo Gem, the actual rewards that a lot of people care about, have a very low passing score. So it's not like the optional difficulty levels will actually negatively affect the game environment. And that's just absolutely not true. And if anyone in the community says, ha ha, you don't have 36 stars, well, I mean, it's on you to not make your profile public or to go out and ask people, hey, how did you do in the Spiral Abyss? Because It's just, in a certain sense, given the amount of privacy there is for you to enjoy your own single player versus environment experience, there is no real need for other people to comment on your progression. And if they do, then they're idiots, because, well, different people have different progressions, and different people have different luck with the gacha system and so on. So the entire thing of looking down on people that can't clear these power bursts with 36 stars, I mean, that in itself is just vacuous. It's just like, okay, whatever, buddy. I mean, let's just be real about that. People that look down are just idiots. So I don't think high difficulty events adds community toxicity more so than the community looking for reasons to be toxic, which is two very separate concepts. Point number 3 here. I did say that most players who want in-game leaks or content don't care about the story. They only farm and farm like WoW and Destiny 2. Once again, that's just a generalization. That does not generalize well to the casual EN community as well. So that's just, I don't know, that's just a bad generalization. There's so much that does not really follow on that. And also, you cannot farm and farm because the game itself limits you from farming, and hence, once you've done all of the story and you've cared about the story and you've done all of the farming, there needs to be some sort of loop that can continue to keep you busy. Otherwise, you're just going to vote with your wallet on a different game, and hint, it's not going to be Zenless Zone Zero or Honkai Star Rail. I can promise you that. Number 4, Genshin used to hold high difficulty events, but generally didn't get many good responses. Obviously, because people tried to go for the highest difficulty. They picked the highest difficulty with all the debuffs and so on, instead of just doing the minimal amount. So if you are someone that's only got 30 minutes a day to play, try and go for the difficulty that's curated, that's made by Hoyo to be achievable by 99% of players, and ignore the optional higher difficulty levels. If you are going to go out of your way to play a difficulty event that has optional rewards, and you're going to then complain about it, then really it's just on you for being an absolute moron. I'm sorry. And this whole thing I've talked about in a previous video about how democratizing player feedback through surveys is just the worst kind of thing that Hoyo can do. So do check that video out. And then finally, these kinds of people is best to quit Genshin, lest Hoyo trusts their shit and releases in-game content. Then these people go and complain on forums because they can't complete it, their accounts not being built enough. I mean, if you're an in-game player, you probably are in such a good position that you can take on more difficult content, and you want to take on more difficult content. And if your account is not built well enough to take on that content, then that means there's a reason for you to keep on playing. So once again, just a terrible take. So I don't know, is this really what the CN community says? Because if it is, then I'm sorry, it's just a community that's clearly out of touch.